afternoon, my name is Hector and I'm here to perform my air brake and in-cab general inspection. First, I'm going to check for 6 items. I want to make sure that my seatbelt, it's not ripped or torn, and I want to make sure that buckles and unbuckles properly. 2, my parking and emergency brake knobs are both pulled out. That means the brakes are on. My gear shifter, it's in neutral. My steering wheel, no more than 2 inches of play. Clutch, no more than 2 inches of play when we tap on it. And final, I want to make sure my air pressure, it's reading below 80 psi. We also have 2 air gauges. On top we have the primary, and on the bottom we have the secondary. I'm going to be reading the primary needle, which is the one on the top. So now I'm going to turn the key on. And my air pressure is reading at 120 psi. So I'm gonna fan the brake to get it under 80. All right, air pressure now it's below 80. We are reading at 70 psi. So now I'm gonna go ahead and do a safe start. Clutch, neutral, truck on, release my clutch slowly. Next, I'm gonna perform my cutout and apply leaking test together. Cutout is when the governor turns off the air compressor. Over 140 psi, it's not a good test. To perform this test, I'm gonna accelerate until the primary needle stops. Okay, my cutout happened at 125 psi, making this a good test. Why? Because we did not go over 140 psi. Next, I'm gonna turn off the truck. I'm gonna leave the key back on the on position. I'm gonna push in my parking and my emergency brake knobs in. Now, my next test is gonna be my apply leaking test. That means I should not lose no more than 4 pounds of pressure in 60 seconds. To perform this test, I'm gonna step on the brake. And my needle has stabilized at 100 psi. My time starts. All right, my 60 seconds are up. The needle still reads at 100 psi, making this a good test. Why? Because we did not lose no more than 4 pounds of pressure in 60 seconds. We lost 0 pounds. Next test is gonna be the low pressure warning device test. That means that the light and the alarm, they both are gonna activate in between 75 and 55 psi. To perform this test, I will fan the brake until I see and hear the alarm. Light and alarm, they both activated at 65 psi, making this a good test. Why? Because it's in between the range of 75 and 55 psi. Now, I'm gonna perform my spring brake test. That means my parking brake and my emergency brake knobs, they're both are gonna pop out in between 45 and 20. To perform this test, I'm gonna fan the brake until they both pop out. My parking and my emergency brake knobs, they both popped out at 40 psi, making this a good test. Why? Because it's in between the range of 45 and 20. Now, I'm gonna step off the truck, I'm gonna remove my chalk, and I'm gonna come back inside to continue with my air brake test. Okay, now I'm gonna continue with a safe start. Clutch, double check on my neutral, truck on, release the clutch slowly. Now, I'm gonna raise my air pressure back to the max. I'm gonna accelerate until my needle stops. Okay, my air pressure's to the max. Now, we have 4 types of brakes. We have the parking, we have the emergency, we have the trailer, and we have the service brake. I'm gonna test my brakes in that order. First, I'm gonna step on the clutch. I'm gonna put myself in the low gear. I'm gonna test my parking brake. So, I'm gonna push in my emergency. I'm gonna release my clutch slowly. Okay, that tug and vibration indicates parking brake is working properly. Now, I'm gonna test my emergency. pull out the emergency, push in the parking, release the clutch slowly. All right, that tug and vibration means the emergency brake is working properly. Now I'm gonna test the trailer. I'm gonna bring down the trailer lever down, push in the emergency, and I'm gonna release the clutch slowly. All right, my trailer brake is working properly. Now, I'm gonna test my service brake. I'm gonna step on the service brake. I'm gonna release the trailer. To test this brake, I'm gonna roll 5 miles per hour without holding the wheel. Let go of the brake, release the clutch. All right, my service brake is working properly. My steering wheel didn't move right or left. That means that the brakes are well adjusted. Now, I'm gonna put myself back in neutral, pull out my brakes, release my service brake, and last, release my clutch slowly. This concludes the air brake test. Now, I'm gonna perform my in-cab inspection. My door opens and closes properly. The window rolls up and down properly. The mirrors are clean and they're well adjusted, not cracked, broken, or have any illegal stickers. The windshield, not cracked, broken, or have any illegal stickers. The weather seal around the windshield, not ripped or torn to prevent any air or water coming in the cab. Now, I'm gonna turn on my wipers. Wipers are working properly. The windshield washer fluid also is working properly. Now, I'm gonna check my lights. I'm gonna turn on my lights, headlights, low beams for the city, high beams for the country. They are working properly. Now, my right, left, turning signals, working properly. Now the emergency flashers are working properly. Now, we have 2 horns. Electric for the city, air for the country. They're both working properly. Now, my heater and defroster also working properly. Now, we have an emergency compartment, which is equipped with 3 triangle reflectors, an extra pack of fuses. On this side, I have a fire extinguisher, which is fully charged and is up to date and is properly clamped down. Now, I'm gonna read my gauges. I got my oil pressure. Must be reading in between 30 and 60 psi. The water must be reading below 180 degrees. RPMs, I'm gonna step on the gas. My RPMs working properly. Speedometer, I will test that once I'm in motion. I have my battery bolts, must be in between 12 and 14 bolts. My fuel tank, my fuel enough for the trip. My air pressure up to the max. This concludes my air brake test and in-cab general inspection. Can you please go outside and help me check my lights?